As I think about what has actually served me and what hasn't served me over the years in my own trading progress and journey, it's been a lot more about what I've taken away than what I've added or what I thought I needed to add to my process, system, mindset, whatever. What I'm going to talk about today was something that I thought was so important. There was a period of time back when I was living in Austin, Texas, and I had this apartment on the 19th floor overlooking 6th Street. If anyone knows the area, it's a pretty, hustle and bustle area, especially when it comes to the nightlife. And the reason I mention that is because with all that was going around on the outside of my apartment, there was a lot going on the inside and a lot going on in here that I really didn't need. And as I've gotten older now, I remove myself from the downtown environment, from those situations, and I really crave that peace and quiet. And so it's been a lot more about what I have removed versus what I added, and all the things that I thought were so important, the nightlife scene, the ability to just, see people, be in the middle of it all. What I thought was so important, I've come to find has not actually served me in my own happiness, and obviously bring it all to trading and in trading as well. I look back on it and I think about how much time was potentially wasted and all the mental energy, etc. But you can't really look back, and I don't like to look back and say, oh my gosh, you learn from those mistakes. But everything that I've done has gotten me to where I am now, to where I understand, to where I see the world the way that I see it now, which in a sense is kind of its own perfect little thing. And it might be hard to kind of understand that or think about that, but that's how I try to look at things these days. And so what did I stop doing, or stop partaking in, stop giving my attention to, that has improved me? And if you boil it down, pretty close to the time that I pretty much cut off everything, and I'll explain how this happened first, that time is when I became profitable. Now, I didn't know at the time, but since that point, in early 2023, I haven't looked back. And that point that I reached was a massive inflection and turning point, I believe, not only in my mindset, but my trading results, obviously, as well. So what I stopped was financial or trading social media. You can call it finance YouTube, you can call it FinTwit on Twitter, whatever you want to call it. You can be on Instagram, on Reels. You can find your little niche and just, kind of suck that niche dry, in a sense of soaking up as much information and following and being all over it and thinking that everything matters. And what I found was it really doesn't. And I'm going to explain that here in a second. But first, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Iron Beam.
Welcome to Iron Beam, the future of futures trading. With our cutting-edge chart trading feature and 300+ indicators, you can now trade directly off the chart anytime, anywhere. Delivering seamless trading across all platforms, the Iron Beam journey is supported by 24-hour trader support, low day trade margins, and no account minimums. Iron Beam brings the future into the present. Join now and augment your trading experience.
So what really ended up happening was I stopped looking for answers on the outside, and I started looking for answers inside, in my brain, in my charts, in how I pictured and how I viewed things. And by no means am I sitting here saying, look at me, copy me, I'm the best person in the world. No, I'm not. By no means. I'm doing my own thing. Everyone's got their own path, their own journey. But what I do see is I see something now that really excites me, because the potential scalability and the potential that I have with all the results and data that I've now built, trading and thinking the ways that I think now, has the opportunity for exponential scale, which is where you get really excited, but you want to rein yourself in because you don't want to get too excited and then, over leverage. And then next thing you know, you put yourself into the position that you were in before, when you were, getting all caught in these things. And bring it back to the time when things shifted. It wasn't, believe it or not, it was not a hard stop. It was not a, oh my God, I can't with this stuff anymore, I gotta stop. It was not like I had to quit smoking, drinking, nothing like that. And I don't even have experience with those things. So in my life, I don't really think I have a lot of experience with saying I need to stop this and then going cold turkey the next day and never going back. So I couldn't draw upon that. I just never had that. I never really had, a situation that I felt like, oh my God, I have to stop this today, and I went cold turkey on. Whereas some people struggle with addiction or whatnot, and they could have those experiences in the past. So what ended up happening was it was more so from experience. And what I started to find was that I started to find less interest in the financial social media, the financial news, pages, the financial anything. And I started to realize, because you're told, for such a long time that, this stuff matters and the Fed matters and the earnings matters and, oh my gosh, my view of the market matters. And this guy who has been, super successful, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's on CNBC, wherever, and this person's been so successful, so whatever they say is like gospel. What I found was that was not the case. And it took me time, like it took years to get to that point. But I started to realize that everyone is going to be wrong at times. Everyone is going to make mistakes. And I don't think these people have negative intentions in mind, but when you're looking at this guy and then that guy and then this person and then this media outlet and then this, person who's, hiding behind a screen, never showing their face as some random person on Twitter trading that's making you feel like shit, I realized that wasn't actually serving me. And it seems obvious in looking at the way I describe it there, but none of that was serving me. It was serving them, but it wasn't serving me. And what I found was that to serve me, I had to look on the inside, and I had to cut and cancel out a lot of the noise, because the noise is what pulled me in 20 directions. There's a million ways to skin the cat, as they say, but the way that's going to work for you is the most important. So the way I have my strategy, the way that I visualize and see my strategy is the most important for me, not how somebody else sees their strategy or how someone sees mine and is commenting on what I should change. And so as I started to cancel out that noise, I stopped watching, I stopped following, and I stopped paying attention to all those things. And when I stopped paying attention to this person's trade ideas, this person's view on the market, this, that, the other thing, I started to win, because all I was focusing on was my strategy and making the adjustments that actually served me, not somebody else. I think this was huge from a focus perspective, but at the same time, you wouldn't necessarily think it, because, well, yes, you can focus on yourself in one thing. I thought that all of these pieces all kind of played in and had to be put together in some way to build a bias, to build a strategy, to build all this stuff. And it turns out they didn't. It turns out that my trading and my strategy doesn't care about anybody's opinions, doesn't care about what the Fed's doing, doesn't care about what CPI says, doesn't care about any of these things. Well, yes, certain news releases and earnings reports and stuff, if you trade stuff that is influenced by those things, is important to know. But when I started to think too much about how these things would impact me, or how these things, are so important, I stopped thinking about my strategy and what I saw and testing it for myself. Because you might hear people tell you, never trade news. Never trade news. And that's a general rule of thumb for like a beginner. But as you grow and experience things, you might find an edge in some way, shape, or form trading around news. So am I going to tell you or tell myself to not trade news? No, I don't. But why would I say don't do it? You're limiting yourself. It's a limiting belief. It's a limiting, thing that you're putting on yourself that doesn't need to be there unless you've proven that it does. You see what I'm saying? It's a weird thing. But when I stopped caring about all that, I started doing better. And you might think, okay, well, that means don't watch the video. I'm as stupid as it sounds from my perspective. It might mean stop watching any videos, because you don't need to. You get to a level you don't need to anymore. I've kind of thought more of about this from a psychology standpoint, and that's why lately, if you notice on this channel at least, a lot of what we talk about is psychology focused. And so it's not giving you a new trading idea or a style or strategy, because that's kind of irrelevant. I mean, it's relevant to a degree, but what's more important is getting yourself to think for yourself and think in different ways that actually serve you versus serving somebody else, or versus serving the market and playing into the 90% that lose. And that's really the biggest takeaway that I've honestly had. So I hope this was helpful in some way. I'll leave a link to the sponsor and any other resources down below. I hope this is helpful. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.